A strong, positive classroom community is so important for world language class. While I do like to build community throughout the year with our daily routines and different activities, I do like to do purposeful icebreakers and getting to know you activities too. What I wanted to do with you today is share with you a whole bunch of different icebreaker activities you could use with your secondary Spanish classes. Let's get right into it. Hey, my name is Ashley, aka Senorita Spanish, where I provide easy-to-use resources to save you time and energy while you're lesson planning. If you're new here, I just want to make sure that you know that links to everything that I mentioned will be down in the description box below. First up are name tags that you can then use for card talk. And this is straight out of my first day of school video, so if you've seen that before, that's what this is. And it's also very low stress for people who might be seeing icebreakers going, no thank you. Name tag tents are about as individual can get when it comes to icebreaker activities. You give students a sheet of paper, they fold them in half, write their name on one side, and I always say name big, last name little, because I like to start to get to know their names, their faces, and their last names, because that will help me with the grade book. But when we're doing activities, their first name is all I really need, and then the last name is something I just see as I'm walking around the classroom, that kind of thing. Other side is stuff that they like to do, right? So I can use my pre-made ones where they have a couple different little things to fill in, or you can just say, color 5 to 6 things to tell me something about your social media profiles are also a pretty low stress way to break the ice. Students decorate their profile and fill it up with posts about themselves. And if you've had students before, right, if they're coming back into Spanish 2, you could have them do posts about their summer. Or if they're brand new to you, brand new to each other, a whole brand new mix of students, you could have them do posts about themselves. Either way totally works. Conversation cards. These are exactly what it sounds like. Students draw a card and they answer questions about themselves. And you can either have it so that one student draws, answers, and then the next student draws a different card, or you can have it be so one student draws and asks and everyone around the group answers the same question. Either way is totally fine. I have these unprinted and digital versions, but I tend to prefer the printed ones because it's easy to just grab them out of the drawer and toss them out. Like if we have a 10 extra minutes at the end of class, 3 weeks into school, this is my go-to time filler activity. Option number 4 are human bingo cards. I guess bingo cards. I don't know, it's a weird way to say it, but human bingo cards. So they're going to walk around and they're going to ask each other questions. These are about their summer, but you could do it about other things too. And I have different versions that are scaffolded for different levels. So like this one has the question and the yo form to support learners. I actually shared about this activity in my what to do after spring break video. So if you saw that, this is the same download. It comes with 3 versions. So question and yo form, just the question or just the third person. So there's no scaffolding at all. They have to come up with the question and come up with the answer. So that would be the highest level. When they're all done, they can do a quick follow-up writing activity where it just, says who did they find that did each of these things. Again, that's in the same pack as my spring break Find Someone Who activity set. That download includes breaks for all the way throughout the year. So if you already own that, you've got this, you're good to go. Next up is a little bit of after break writing, and this is something that I share about in my after winter break activity. It's the same kind of thing. Students are going to write and draw about what they did over break, and just like the last time, there's all sorts of different versions. So just like the human bingo sheet, this one comes in all sorts of different options too, so that way you can scaffold it depending on which levels you teach, or use it year after year. So if you teach Spanish 3 one year and Spanish 1 another year, you just pick a different sheet of paper and you're good to go. Or if you're in a brand new class and you don't know these kids at all, maybe you're in a brand new school and you have no idea what kind of level to expect, it's kind of nice to throw out a few options and let them self-level and show you what they can do. So this example that I have here has the sentence starters for them. It says, yo fui, yo visité, mis actividades, comí, yo pasé tiempo con. So it's very scaffolded, and this one is in Spanish. I do have versions of this in English because sometimes I've used it with my ones at the very beginning of the year and they don't have it, right? They're not there yet. But I want to start to get to know them, and this is so low stress because they're just going to draw pictures of what they did or just pick a couple of things, that sort of thing. Next up are all about me posters, and again, super low stress. You might be kind of getting a theme here, right? I like to do a lot of icebreakers that are actually kind of individual. These are more of like a get to know you activity than they are an icebreaker, but they're still a good way to kind of break the ice, because what I have always found is if you give students anything to color, they're going to sit and they're going to chat with people around them. And at this point in the year, right away at the beginning of the year, I'm okay with those little conversations happening in English if they're starting to get to know their group mates. So just like pretty much everything else that I've shared so far in this video, I have multiple versions of this one, and I like to give them choice, right? Huge for student buy-in, especially when you're starting to build those relationships. Give them some power by letting them choose. And in this case, it's a very small little thing for them to choose, but they still like it. So here's one version of the posters, and it's very simple. It's got kind of cute little like doodly things for them to fill in. Talks about their name, their favorite food, their favorite book, their favorite activity, how old they are, what they love, their favorite color. Again, very cute, very simple, very easy for them to color. When they're all done, you can have them cut out the banner and then hang them on the walls. And again, very low stress getting to know you, because then students are just going to see what other students in the class like and what they put on their posters. Next up is the ball game, and this is something that I have shared before, so just a really quick overview. You have a ball, students toss it to each other, and they ask questions and answer questions as they go, and that's pretty much the gist. You can have them do it with any kind of question, so at the beginning of the year you might have them hold the ball and say, "Como te llamas?" and then toss the ball to somebody else. "Oh, me llamo Bob." Why Bob? Why is Bob always my person? Sorry, Bob. I don't know. So they can toss it back and forth, but it could also be, "¿Qué te gusta hacer? ¿Cuál es tu color favorito?" Any, right? So the ball game is a really good way to get movement in without students like shifting and mixing and mingling. Four corners is an awesome option that involves movement and everybody moving around the room. The way that you play is that you project something on the screen, and students are going to move to one of four corners. So, for example, if you're playing with cognates and they're sharing their opinions about their cognates, super good for beginners, right? You can put up chocolate, and they're going to pick me encanta, me gusta, no me gusta, detesto, and they're going to go to one of those four categories. And of course, you're going to explain to them what they are. You can hang up posters to really help them, so that way they like know for sure, me encanta el chocolate. Right? Or they know for sure, like, me encanta means I love it. So I want to make sure I'm sharing the right opinion, right? So they're not too stressed out by that. You can definitely give them lots of support that way. You can also play four corners with, instead of opinions, frequency. And this is a good option for your Spanish 2s if they're coming back and you wanted to do review. You could do things like free time activities and say how often they do that. And of course, you can do free time activities with opinions as well, right? Me gusta, no me gusta. Or you can say, "Oh, siempre, frecuentemente." So again, just to kind of clarify the difference between those, they're both four corners, but one, you're doing four corners with sharing opinions about things, me gusta, no me gusta, and one is frequency of doing the things. Siempre, nunca, whatever works. And that's kind of a good way to play the same game with your different levels, right? I've talked about this a lot. I love being able to pull that same game, but then make it work for, like, if you teach a Spanish 2 and a Spanish 1, or a Spanish 1 and a Spanish 4, that way you're not doing completely different activities with them. Sometimes that's easier on the brain. Next up is 2 truths and a lie, and there are a ton of ways you can play this, and you can play this with like themes and topics, or you can just do it as a getting to know you game. I really like to scaffold it for students by having them write their own sentences first. I find that makes it a lot easier for them. For some reason, when you say, "Okay, come up with 2 truths and something that's false," they're like, So if you just give them time to think and come up with something, or even if you say, "Come up with 2 things you did this summer and 1 thing you didn't do this summer," again, that way it's kind of giving them a bounds to look in, so that they're not like, "I don't know, my entire life is before me," and whatever, right? Reducing that overwhelm. You can have them play 2 truths and a lie in a small group, or you can have them write down their sentences, turn them in, and then play as a whole class. And I've shared about this in my weekend chat videos and in my vocabulary game videos. It's super fun. Okay, next up are catchphrase, taboo, heads up, like those kinds of games, and I'm listing them all together because they're all basically the same game, right? The point of the game is that you have a word and you're trying to get everybody else to guess the word, but you can't say the word. Circumlocution. These games are fantastic for language classes, and they're also really fun. Like, they're just funny games, so it's always a really good team builder, classroom, community, like getting to know you icebreaker kind of game. I like to scaffold these games for novices by using Quizlet, and I have a blog post where I've walked through how to do that. But basically, you're going to help them build the clues, or you're going to build them for them. It depends on, what it is. And at this point in the year, it's not something I would do with Spanish 1 or exploratory classes, but your Spanish 2 students, this would be great to kind of get back into using their Spanish, and any other levels, like 2 and higher, they're going to be golden. This or that is very similar to 4 corners in that students are up and they're moving. You can also have them write their answers, or, show this hand or that hand. Students are going to show their opinions by electing this or that, and you're going to project 2 options for them on the screen. I do have a back to school theme, this or that game, And some of it is very simple language like la clase de música o la clase de matemáticas. SAOSA, cual quieres. There are a few others that are just like a little bit more. Like, would you prefer to have school 4 days a week or 5 days a week? Or would you prefer to have school in May or in August? And I know some places you're like, we go to school in May and August and still June. Right this or that, they just look at the options and they pick or choose. It's good for back to school themes. And you can play this or that with really any topic if you wanted to make your own too. Next up is the blob game. This is from La Libre Language Learning, and I shared about it in my speaking activities video, but it's a really good one for ice breaking as well as for speaking. So what you're going to do is you're going to have students ask and answer one question, and it's, think like a multiple choice kind of question, like what's your favorite food, or what's your favorite color, or what's something that you like to do. And what you're going to do is when they find somebody who has the same answer as them, right? So what's your favorite color? Oh, blue. I love blue too. Now we are a blob. And the two people are going to go ask other people, and they're going to keep accumulating people until, right, there's very distinct groups in the class. Next option that involves a little bit of movement and not a ton of language output is levántense si, right? Stand up if, and you can do this for anything. Stand up if you slept in this summer. Stand up if you like the color yellow. Stand up if you have a brother. Stand up if you have 4 dogs. Stand up if, again, literally anything. This is why I shared about levántense si in my vocabulary games activity, because you can theme it to vocabulary units and it works really well for that. But it's also great for an icebreaker getting to know you, because when they stand up, they're going to look around and see, oh, you also have 4 dogs. Do you by any chance have 3 cats and 4 dogs? Because me too. Like that kind of thing might happen in your classroom, and that's building those relationships. Okay, last up I have for you is totally a classic. It is line up by fill in the blank. So you can have them line up by names alphabetically, line up by last names, line up by middle names, line up by birthday, line up by age, line up by birth month, any of those kinds of things. And the point is to do it as quickly as possible, but you can also just, have them try and accomplish the task. You can really have them focus on doing it in the language. However you want to structure it, it's a good way to do that because they're going to have to ask and get that information from their classmates while they're playing. I know that was kind of a lot to choose from, but it's nice to have a lot of options because you don't know what a certain class is going to really jive with until you try it. Okay, do they prefer the individual coloring activities? Do they like getting up and moving around? Can they not handle getting up and moving around? Once you start to kind of get the feel of a particular class, it's nice to have a bank of things to choose from. You could do a different one of these every week for the whole first quarter and then kind of trickle the rest of them in throughout the year. Totally up to you and what works best for your lesson plans. If you're looking for more ways to build relationships with your students, make sure you check out this video I have for you here on tips for building relationships in your classroom. I think you'll really like it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.